Have you ever stumbled upon a place that was never meant to be found? A place where time stands still, where shadows move even when the air is deathly still? What if I told you there was an amusement park, abandoned, forgotten by the world, where the echoes of laughter never faded, where the rides still whirred to life at night, even though no living soul operated them? Welcome to Everjoy Amusement Park, a place that was supposed to bring happiness, yet became a haunting ground of forgotten nightmares. Some say those who enter never return the same, if they return at all. Others believe the laughter you hear isn't from people, but from something else, something that never left. Would you dare to step inside? Tell me in the comments, what's the creepiest abandoned place you've ever heard of? Let's dive into the darkness together. And remember, like, subscribe, and share for more spine-chilling tales. The road to Everjoy Amusement Park was never on any map. Those who found it swore they hadn't been looking. They'd been driving along an old highway, lost in thought or following a wrong turn, when the cracked, vine-choked sign appeared on the side of the road. Everjoy Amusement Park, endless fun awaits. The letters were faded, some barely clinging to the rotting wood, yet the message remained, as if time refused to erase it. It was exactly this kind of story that intrigued Zephron Vale and his friends. Zephron wasn't just any thrill seeker. He had an obsession with forgotten places, the kind that history tried to erase. Along with his closest friends, Nessa, Darvin, and Leor, he spent his weekends exploring abandoned hospitals, burned-down theaters, and tunnels that led nowhere. They called themselves the Echo Hunters, always chasing the whispers of places lost to time. But Everjoy was different. Unlike the others, its history was barely documented. No official records, no newspaper clippings, just a few scattered stories on deep web forums, all saying the same thing. People hear laughter in the dead of night. The rides still run, but the faces in the mirrors don't belong to you. And whatever you do, never ride the carousel. That was enough to seal the deal. Their journey began on an autumn evening, the sun bleeding into the horizon as their van rattled down the forgotten road. Trees, twisted and gnarled, arched over the path like skeletal hands reaching for the sky. The deeper they went, the quieter the world became. No birds, no wind. Even their own voices seemed muffled. "I don't like this," Nessa muttered, her fingers curling over her sleeves. "It feels off." Darvin, always the skeptic, rolled his eyes. "It's just an old park. What's the worst that could happen?" But Zephron wasn't listening. His heart pounded as the van crested a hill, revealing the entrance to Everjoy. It was massive. The rusted iron gates stood open, twisted into unnatural shapes as if something had wrenched them apart. Beyond them, the amusement park sprawled in eerie silence. The Ferris wheel, its skeletal frame still towering against the sky, loomed over everything like a watching eye. The roller coaster tracks were half buried in vines, yet something about them seemed too pristine, as if they could rattle to life at any moment. Then there was the carousel. At the heart of the park, its painted horses gleamed under the dim light of the setting sun, their glassy eyes following them. A broken music box tune played from somewhere, faint but unmistakable. The melody was warped, stretching and twisting like a voice calling from underwater. Lear stepped forward, his camera raised. "This is insane. The power shouldn't even be working." Click. The moment he snapped the picture, the entire park lurched. The ground vibrated beneath them, and the air grew thick with the scent of popcorn and rust. Then, laughter. It started as a whisper, then swelled into a chorus. Children's giggles. Joyful, echoing from every ride, every darkened alley. But there were no children. Nessa clutched Zephron's arm, her breath sharp. "We need to go." But as they turned toward the van, the gates slammed shut. Zephron rushed forward, yanking at the iron bars. They wouldn't budge. No lock, no chains. Just sealed. Darvin's voice shook. "Who? Who closed it?" Then the lights flickered on. Every bulb, every neon sign, flashing in brilliant reds and blues. The roller coaster roared to life, the empty carts rattling along the tracks at full speed. The Ferris wheel groaned. turning slowly, its rusted joints screaming. And the carousel. The horses moved, not just up and down. They turned their heads toward the group, their painted mouths curling into something that looked disturbingly like a grin. Then, without warning, the ride spun to life, faster than any carousel should. The music warped, the cheery tune becoming something twisted, discordant. A voice, hollow and distant, whispered through the speakers, "Step right up. The fun never ends." Then the shadows around them shifted. Figures emerged from behind the cotton candy stalls, from the haunted house, from the depths of the darkened tunnels. They looked human, but something was wrong. Their limbs were too long, their movements unnatural, and their faces were blank. No eyes, no mouths, just smooth, pale skin where features should be. Zephron barely had time to react before the first one moved. It didn't walk. It glided, covering 10 feet in a blink. Leor let out a strangled cry, stumbling back. His camera fell, shattering against the pavement. The thing didn't stop. It reached for him. Zephron grabbed Leor, yanking him away as the figure's fingers just barely brushed his jacket. The touch burned, a cold so deep it felt like fire. More of them were coming. Nessa screamed, "Run!" They didn't need to be told twice. They bolted toward the food stands, weaving between overturned carts and rusted carnival games. The laughter followed them, distorted, shifting from childlike giggles to something wrong. A voice overlapping itself, whispering in a language none of them understood. Zephron's lungs burned as they reached the funhouse. He didn't think. He just grabbed the handle and yanked the door open. The inside was a maze of mirrors, their own reflections twisted in unnatural ways. Longer, thinner, faces stretching into grotesque smiles. Darvin swore, "We can't stay in here." Zephron turned, but the door was gone. Just more mirrors, more reflections. Except, one of them moved when they didn't, and it was smiling. A whisper slithered through the air, curling around them like smoke. "You shouldn't have come." Then the mirrors shattered. Glass exploded around them, and for a split second, Zephron saw something in the shards. An amusement park that wasn't abandoned. One filled with people, screaming and laughing. But their laughter wasn't joyful. It was trapped. And then, darkness. The darkness wasn't just the absence of light. It was heavy, pressing against their skin like wet fabric, seeping into their lungs with every breath. Zephron hit the ground hard, shards of glass digging into his palms. He scrambled to his feet, heart hammering as the echoes of the shattered mirrors faded into silence. Then, laughter. Not just around them, inside them. It was crawling up his spine, bubbling in his throat like something trying to escape. The same happened to the others. Nessa clutched her stomach, her face twisted in terror, while Darvin bit down on his lips so hard a thin line of blood trickled down his chin. Leor gasped, hands clamped over his mouth. Zephron's pulse thundered in his ears. Fight it! But the laughter was hungry. The darkness shifted, and for a brief moment, a flickering light illuminated the room. It wasn't a funhouse anymore. The mirrors were gone, replaced by cracked, peeling walls and a damp, rotting floor. The smell of cotton candy and decay clogged the air. Leor coughed violently. Where the hell are we?" Zephron scanned their surroundings. It looked like a maintenance room, old tools scattered across rusted shelves, papers strewn across the floor. But the worst part wasn't the mess. It was the door, or rather, the dozen doors. They lined the walls in every direction, identical, each one marked with a single, childish word painted in red. "Smile, laugh, play, never stop." Nessa shuddered. "We can't open any of these." Darvin backed up against the nearest wall, hands trembling. "Then how do we get out?" As if answering his question, the ceiling groaned. Something moved above them. A dragging sound, slow and deliberate. Then faint, distant creaks, like something stepping onto a floorboard that shouldn't exist. Zephron exchanged a look with Nessa. They both heard it. Leor grabbed his camera, somehow intact despite the fall, and turned on the screen, switching to night vision mode. He aimed it at the ceiling, his hands unsteady. And then he saw it. A figure, hunched, twisted, watching them through a thin crack in the rotted wood above. Its head was too large, tilting at an unnatural angle, and its eyes, no, not eyes, holes, were like empty voids, swallowing the green glow of the camera screen. It was smiling. Leor's breath hitched, his grip tightening on the camera. But before he could warn the others, the doors flung open, all at once. A hurricane of giggles and whispers erupted, filling the room. The doors didn't reveal hallways or exits. They revealed more eyes, more grins, more things. Zephron grabbed Nessa's wrist and ran. The others followed, sprinting through the only door that hadn't opened on its own. It slammed shut behind them, sealing them in another corridor. This one was worse. The walls weren't walls at all. They were lined with carnival masks, hundreds of them, each twisted into a grotesque smile. Some were cracked, others pristine, but they all watched. And then they started laughing. A distorted, overlapping chorus of joyless mirth filled the air, pressing into their skulls. The masks rattled against the walls, their hollow eyes bleeding black tar. Darvin lost it. He grabbed the nearest mask and ripped it off the wall. The moment he did, the laughter stopped. For a breath, there was nothing but silence. Then, the walls screamed. The mask's expressions twisted into something monstrous. Their mouths stretched, unhinging like snakes, revealing rows of jagged yellow teeth. The tar pooled onto the floor, slithering toward them like living shadows. Zephron shoved Darvin forward. "Go! Go! Go!" They ran blindly, the corridor twisting, stretching, warping. The lights above flickered erratically, casting long, shifting shadows. The air hummed, a deep vibration that rattled their bones. Then the corridor ended. They burst through a final doorway and stumbled onto the midway of the amusement park once again. Except, it was alive. The once rotting booths were pristine. The smell of caramel apples and fresh popcorn filled the air. The Ferris wheel spun, lights flashing in vibrant neon. The roller coaster cars roared down the tracks, carrying screaming passengers. The carousel gleamed under the artificial glow, its horses no longer frozen statues but moving, galloping in slow, hypnotic circles. The park was open, but the people weren't right. They wore bright clothes like visitors from the past, but their movements were mechanical, stiff as if they were puppets on invisible strings. Their laughter was too perfect, too synchronized. And their faces were blank, no eyes, no noses, just smooth, eerie smiles. Zephron's stomach twisted. Nessa's grip on his arm tightened. This isn't real. A cheerful jingle played from overhead speakers. A voice followed, bright and hollow. "Welcome back, honored guests. Step right up. The fun never ends." Then from the shadows near the carousel, something stepped forward. Not a puppet, not a mask, a ringmaster. His suit was crimson, his hat tilted just so. His grin stretched too wide, revealing teeth too sharp. His eyes, black voids, locked onto them with something almost like amusement. He tipped his hat and whispered, "It's your turn to play." Zephron's blood ran cold. The ringmaster took a slow, deliberate step forward. His polished boots didn't make a sound against the pavement, as if he weren't walking at all but gliding. His two wide smiles stretched even further, and his black void-like eyes never blinked. Behind him, the amusement park pulsed with unnatural energy. The Ferris wheel spun faster, its lights blinking in a pattern that felt wrong. The roller coaster thundered along the tracks, but its riders weren't screaming in joy. Their mouths were open wide, locked in endless, soundless terror. Zephron could barely breathe. His instincts screamed to run, but something in the ringmaster's presence held him in place. The voice, cheerful, smooth, hollow, slithered through the air. "Oh, don't be shy. You came all this way, didn't you?" Lear took a shaky step back, his camera trembling in his hands. We don't want to play." The ringmaster chuckled, the sound wrong, layered as if 1,000 voices were laughing at once. "But you already are." Zephron's stomach dropped. The realization hit all at once. The moment they entered Everjoy, The moment the laughter had started, they had already been playing the game, and there was only one way out. The rides screeched to a halt. Every puppet-like figure in the park snapped their heads toward them, their blank faces stretching into unnatural grins. Then they moved, not walking, gliding, fast, too fast. Zephron grabbed Nessa's hand and ran. Darwin and Lior bolted after them, their breaths sharp and ragged. The figures swarmed, their laughter growing louder, a choppy, glitching sound that sent pure terror ripping through Zephron's chest. They weren't human. They never had been. They darted past the cotton candy stalls, knocking over rusted barrels and broken-down carnival stands. The lights flickered violently, the shadows stretching and twisting into long, clawed fingers that reached for them. Then, a carousel horse shot forward. It wasn't attached to the ride. The thing leapt from the carousel as if it were alive, its painted glassy eyes gleaming with something that wasn't just paint. It landed in front of them, blocking their path, its mouth stretching into something like a snarl. Zephron skidded to a stop, his heart hammering. The horse twitched. Then it lunged. Nessa screamed. Zephron grabbed a rusted metal pole from a nearby stand and swung it with all his strength. The impact sent a loud cracking sound through the air, and for a brief moment, the horse froze. Then with a sickening, grinding noise, its head twisted completely around to face him again. Zephron's breath hitched. It wasn't dead. Darwin shoved past him. This way! They sprinted toward the funhouse. The entrance loomed ahead, its neon lights buzzing, flickering in and out. But there was something else, a sign that hadn't been there before. Win the game. Find the exit. Zephron hesitated. This is a trap. Lior panted, his hands shaking. Everything is a trap. We don't have a choice. A distorted, warped voice echoed behind them. Come now, little guests. The night is still young. The ringmaster. Zephron didn't waste another second. They plunged into the funhouse. The door slammed shut behind them. Darkness swallowed them whole. The door slammed shut, sealing them inside the funhouse. Zephron's breath came in sharp gasps as he pressed his palms against the door, shoving, yanking. But it wouldn't budge. The laughter outside faded, replaced by a thick, oppressive silence. The only sound was their own frantic breathing. Then, a light flickered on. It was dim, casting long, unnatural shadows across the floor. The walls weren't normal. They were mirrors, stretching in endless, distorted corridors, reflecting their images back at them. Except they weren't quite right. Zephron took a slow step forward, his reflection lagging slightly behind him. Nessa swallowed hard. I don't like this. Darwin exhaled sharply. No kidding. Leo raised his camera, his hands shaking as he switched to night vision. The screen flickered to life, bathing everything in an eerie green glow. He scanned the mirrors, his reflection shifting oddly. Too tall, its limbs too thin. Then something moved, not in the mirrors, in the spaces between them. Zephron saw it just out of the corner of his eye. A shadow, tall, grinning. It slipped between the reflections, a presence without a body, flickering in and out of existence. Then the whisper started. Software, close. Right in their ears. This is where they got lost. This is where they stayed. This is where they laughed forever. The whispers swirled around them, overlapping, voices of children, adults, something else. Some were giggling, some were pleading. Zephron clenched his fists. We have to move. They stepped cautiously into the maze of mirrors, their reflections stuttering with every movement. The funhouse stretched impossibly far, a labyrinth of twisting corridors, the mirrors reflecting places that didn't exist, places that shouldn't exist. Lear held up his camera, scanning the path ahead. His voice was a whisper. There's something in here with us. The mirror shivered. Then, a hand shot out. Not from the mirror, from inside it. It grabbed Leor's arm. He screamed. The hand was wrong. Too long, the fingers stretched like wax melting in reverse. The nails were cracked, jagged, digging into his skin as it yanked. Zephron lunged, grabbing Leor's other arm. Hold on! But the mirror was pulling him in. Lior's reflection didn't match his movements. Instead of struggling, the Lior in the mirror smiled. Wide, unnatural. Then it reached up, placed one finger over its lips, and shushed him. The thing inside the mirror yanked harder. Zephron screamed, pulling with everything he had. Nessa and Darwin grabbed Lior's legs, yanking backward. The mirror rippled like water. Then with a sickening pop, Lior was free. They tumbled backward, crashing onto the floor. Lior gasped, his arm now covered in deep black bruises in the shape of fingers. The mirror cracked. A deep, echoing giggle filled the air. Then, the lights went out. For a second, nothing, just the suffocating blackness. Then, the mirrors exploded. Glass showered around them, slicing their skin, their clothes. The laughter grew deafening. They scrambled to their feet, running blindly through the shattered remains of the funhouse. The walls were changing. The mirrors were gone, replaced by faces. Not painted, not statues. Real, screaming faces. Buried in the walls, their eyes wild, their mouths stretched in endless laughter. They weren't laughing by choice. They were trapped. A hand shot out of the wall, nearly grabbing Darwin's ankle. He jumped back, cursing. "We need to get out of here now!" Ahead, a door appeared. Zephron didn't think. He grabbed the handle and threw it open. Bright carnival lights blinded them as they stumbled through. The air was thick with the scent of popcorn, but underneath it was something rotting. Then they heard it, the sound of a carousel, slow, steady, turning, and the ringmaster's voice, smooth as ever. "You're doing so well, little guess, but the real game is just beginning." Zephron's pulse thundered, because now they weren't in the funhouse. They were standing in front of the carousel, and the horses were waiting. The carousel groaned as it spun, the painted horses rising and falling in an eerie, rhythmic motion. Their glassy eyes watched. Their mouths, once frozen in cheerful expressions, now twisted into wide, toothy grins. His hand was pulled to the controls as if an invisible force had grabbed it. He fought it. He tried to pull back, but the game wasn't giving him a choice. The screen lit up with a simple prompt. Avoid the laughter, reach the exit. Then, the game started. The pixelated screen mimicked the amusement park. The tiny 8-bit figure representing Zephron stood at the edge of a carnival map. At the other end of the screen was a glowing exit sign, but between him and the exit, a swarm of grinning faces. They were chasing, hunting. Zephron's hands shook as he moved the joystick, guiding the tiny figure between the carnival rides. The pixelated faces lunged, grinning wider, snapping at his heels. The closer he got to the exit, the faster they moved. His hands were sweating. His heart pounded. Then, the joystick locked. The figure stopped moving, and the faces caught up. On the screen, they swarmed him. Zephron heard screaming, not from the arcade machine, from behind him. He whirled around. Darwin was gone. Just gone. 1 second he was standing next to them. The next, nothing. Nessa's breathing turned ragged. "What? Where?" Lior backed against the arcade booth, his face drained of color. "He lost!" Zephron's hands tightened into fists. A hollow, gleeful laughter echoed from the speaker. The game wasn't just a game. It was choosing them. And it wasn't finished yet. The screen glitched again, the words flashing in bold red letters. Next player. The arcade booth hummed, its glow casting long, eerie shadows across the abandoned bumper car arena. Zephron's fists clenched as the words flickered on the screen. Next player. A deep, suffocating silence fell over them. The bumper cars no longer moved. The unseen drivers no longer grinned. They were waiting for someone to play again. Nessa's hands trembled at her sides. "I'm not playing that thing." Lior took a shaky step back. "It took Darwin. We don't even know where he is." Zephron swallowed the rising panic in his throat. "If we don't play, we might never get out." Then, the machine moved. The joystick snapped upright, twitching slightly, as if something unseen had just wrapped its fingers around it. The screen glitched. Static swarmed the monitor before an image appeared. Not a game screen this time. It was a live feed of Darwin. Nessa let out a sharp gasp. "Oh my God!" Darwin was inside the amusement park, his body suspended midair, wrapped in thick, twisting vines made of flesh. The vines squirmed, pulsing, tightening around his wrists, his ankles, his throat. His face was twisted in terror. His mouth opened, but no sound came out. The vines slithered tighter. The screen flickered again, and text appeared beneath him. Play to save him. Zephron's hands curled into fists. This wasn't a choice. He stepped forward and grabbed the joystick. The machine whirred. The screen shifted back to the game. The pixelated figure, the one that looked just like him, stood at the center of the amusement park map. More grinning faces filled the screen. More than before. And this time, the exit was further away. A countdown started. 3 dots, 2 dots, 1 dot, dot, dot. The game began. Zephron's pulse hammered. He moved the joystick with precision, guiding his tiny 8-bit self past rusted carnival rides, around decayed food stands. The faces chased him. Faster, closer. The arcade machine shook, the joystick growing hotter under his grip. The game was fighting against him, resisting his movements. Then, the exit flashed. He was so close. Zephron gritted his teeth, fingers moving with inhuman speed. Just one more turn, one more second. The screen glitched. The joystick yanked itself left. Zephron had no control. His character turned toward the grinning faces, right into them. The moment they touched him, the screen cut to black. Zephron staggered backward. The laughter returned, loud, deafening. Then, something grabbed him. A cold, clawed hand wrapped around his wrist and dragged him forward. He barely had time to gasp before he was yanked into the arcade machine. The last thing he heard was Nessa's scream. Then, darkness. Zephron hit the ground hard. His head spun as he forced himself upright, hands sinking into something soft and warm. Not dirt, not concrete. Something that breathed. He jerked his hands away, heart hammering. The ground beneath him shifted as if he were standing on the chest of some massive, sleeping creature. Then, a voice, a whisper slithering through the darkness. You played the game. Now you belong to it. Zephron's breath came in shallow gasps. Around him, the shadows moved. No walls, no sky. Just endless, shifting darkness. A new sound reached his ears. Crying. He turned. Darwin was there, hanging from the twisting, fleshy vines that had wrapped around his limbs. His body twitched, as if the vines were feeding off him. His mouth opened, but the only sound that came out was a distorted, echoing laugh. Not his own. Zephron's stomach twisted. He spun, searching for a way out, but the darkness was alive. It laughed without mouths, whispered without voices. Then in the distance, a Ferris wheel. It rose from the darkness like a skeletal beast, its rusted metal arms bent, broken. But the seats, they were filled. People, hundreds of them, bodies slumped, eyes hollow, lips frozen in wide, twisted grins. Some had been there for so long that their flesh had fused to the metal. Zephron's pulse pounded. The amusement park wasn't just haunted, it was hungry. It had been feeding on laughter, on fear, on them. Zephron grabbed the nearest vine and yanked with all his strength. Darwin, wake up! Darwin's body convulsed, the vines tightening. His lips pulled back into an unnatural grin, eyes rolling back. Zephron gritted his teeth. He wasn't going to let the park win. Not this time. Behind him, the Ferris wheel groaned, the skeletal passengers turning their heads in eerie, synchronized movements. Zephron took a deep breath. Then, he did the only thing he could. He laughed. Loud, forceful, a defiant, mocking laugh. The park shuddered. The laughter, the real, unnatural laughter that had haunted them since the moment they arrived, stopped. The vines twitched. The grinning faces froze. Zephron kept laughing, forced it through his teeth, louder, harsher. The amusement park had always controlled them through fear, through the idea that they had no escape. So what if he refused to be afraid? The darkness quivered. The Ferris wheel's rusted frame cracked. The vines around Darwin's body withered. Then, the park screamed. The entire carnival ripped apart at the seams. The rides collapsed. The bumper cars exploded into dust. The arcade machines imploded with a horrific, echoing shriek. The world around them fractured. And then, light, blinding, overwhelming. Zephron gasped as he hit the ground, the sensation of cold pavement beneath his hands. He blinked against the harsh glow of streetlights. Hillway Carnival was gone. No rusted rides, no twisted laughter, no haunted, endless games. Just an empty lot. Nessa was on her knees beside him, shaking. Leor was staring at the ground, silent. Darvin, he was breathing. They were alive. But Zephron knew the truth. The amusement park was still out there, waiting. It could never truly be destroyed, because as long as there were people who loved laughter, who craved thrills, who sought out the forgotten and the forbidden, the park would always return, waiting for the next visitors. Did you enjoy this twisted ride into the unknown? Would you ever step into an abandoned amusement park after dark? Let me know in the comments. And if you love stories like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more terrifying tales. The park may be gone for now, but the laughter never fades.